Okay. The true nature of things is sometimes a little hard to get to. That's what I feel like. So right now, I'm a little bit uncertain as to how I want to sit. Because sitting like this makes me feel a bit like, right, sometimes I don't want to appear like I'm overly holy or something. And then I start sabotaging myself. Because, this is my introduction. Because spirituality, as I see it, is to some people just something that looks like something. Right? You have to look a certain way, you have to dress a certain way, you have to put paint in your face or something. But it has nothing to do with that. I mean, just because some tribes do that doesn't mean you have to do it. I mean, putting paint in your face doesn't really change anything. Putting paint in your face, what that does is, it puts paint in your face. It's like makeup, right? So you're like adding something because it makes you feel better. And it makes you feel like, oh wow, I'm really spiritual now because I have paint in my face. I'm talking like, some people, they do rituals and then they paint themselves with. So I mean, sure, if you like that, but it won't improve your feeling. Because what is if you don't put paint in your face? Do you feel the same way about what you just did? Because the way I see it, I don't think actually paint changes anything. Unless you do like a mud bath. So I like to do things in a very simplistic way that don't need a lot of stuff added to them. So, right, when I eat, I sit down and I eat. I don't have to say a prayer. Right, I remember once when I was at a ceremony that was being held by people from Armenia that put a lot of meaning into spoken words in forms of prayer, right? That you say like, Amen, yeah? And then you use whatever language you want, and then you express what you want to say. And then I was sitting there and I thought, all right, I always try to speak from the heart, and I think I manage. It's like when you don't think about it, it just comes out. But sometimes you kind of think about it still. The mind is like something that helps you along the way, right? To figure out what's true for you. Instead of just doing what other people tell you, you just try to figure out what's true for me as an individual. And that's the truth that I'm looking for, right? So I've been watching, my mind is scattered, I'm not a straight thinker. I have a goal, I think about something, my mind is starting to focus on something, but I do realize that my mind goes there in kind of serpentines. And that's the heart, right? I mean, I say the mind, but what gives a direction to my mind, I believe that's the heart. Because I also think about things that I feel like. So I have a certain problem at the moment, and I have the same problem already for quite a while. And that's like, how can I become free? How can I free myself, especially from people that want to control me with fear, right? Or people that are afraid and that try to control me, or that just silence me and that don't talk to me. And that without even knowing it, probably want to torture me. It's like punishment, right? If somebody for weeks on end just keeps ignoring you, you know, it's like, first of all, I think it's like being a chicken, because if you really want to speak with somebody and they just keep ignoring you, then I just say, well, at a certain point, that's it, right? And I have people like this in my life, people who constantly try to fuck with me. And I just want to liberate myself from such things, from people who are oppressive, although they say they're really nice, right? Like, I often meet people who say, yeah, I'm very gentle. And then you spend time with them and you think, what you say that for, man? Like, they don't even realize how mean they are on a subconscious level, maybe. And what's subconscious? Because to me, if I'm the victim, you know, nobody's really a victim, but let's say I spend time with toxic people and they subconsciously attack me. What's it matter to me whether this is subconsciously going on or whether this is something that goes on consciously? Because even if it's just happening in the subconscious, it's still happening to me because I put myself into contact with such people, if you understand what I mean. Now this is making me a little bit uneasy. I just want to put this a little bit higher, alright? And so I often find that when I'm around people that are really agitated, that helping them in the sense that I go there and help them to release their stress doesn't really help me anymore. Now, I was sort of a meddler most of my life. I saw a problem and then I went there and I told the person, this is your problem, why don't you start dealing with it? And I thought I was helping them. Now maybe I could have helped myself instead. You know, it's really hard if you see things, especially in family, and people do things, and I see things even from a great distance, the meditative state. If you clean your mind, you can see people that are hundreds of miles away. You can see how they are emotionally, and then you can see yourself in all of this, and you realize, I can do something here, right? There's a job for me with this person, and then you do that. But you don't go around just choosing, oh, I'm just going to help everyone and tell them the truth. Because what is the truth? If you go around speaking truth to everybody and you just get a lot of negative feedback, then the truth is that you're not getting the message. And the message is, leave me the fuck alone. Yeah, and that's sometimes very hard to leave people alone when you love them, right? Like, how do you do that? You know, how do you see all this stuff happening around you? People that are like in a bad place emotionally, people that eat really bad things for their health, but they walk around and they complain about it. And when you go there and you talk to them and you say, hey, maybe you should change your diet. Like, leave me alone. Yeah, all right, but you've heard it. You know, that's what I say to people now. I say, you've heard it. You can't pretend anymore because you have that knowledge. You have to take responsibility for it. And that's what I find really important. And I have to say, this is like an interjection. This is going very different from what I thought. Because I felt all kinds of ways. I've been eating lots of cake. You know, I made pancakes without eggs, but I used butter just to make it more fat. I added a lot of sugar into there. And that's what I've been eating now for basically 2 days. I made a large batch. And now I'm once more at this point where I say, I'm just gonna start fasting now. And then I think, really? Am I really supposed to fast now? Like, is this how it's going to go? Am I just retreat into myself? and not give a crap about other people anymore. Because that's what happens when I fast. I come more to myself. And I really feel like I need that at the moment. It's just, emotionally, it's just a lot of stuff going on. And I don't really have anyone to talk about it with, and that's probably alright. But it's also people that just choose to stay away from me, right? People are literally afraid of me. And that's the crazy thing, because when you start to get to the bottom of things and you realize, oh wow, this person is walking around like this. But when you get to the bottom of it, it's just a hoax. It's just bullshit. It's a lie. And so when we talk about the true nature of things, you see everything I talk about is very broad subject. And I've spent years and hours, within yourself, there's no time. So when I say years, then I mean that. Sometimes, if you would put the amount of time that I had to spend searching for an answer into numbers, then sometimes I could say, yes, I spent decades in my mind trying to sort this out. Because in your mind, there's timelessness when you know how to get there. And timelessness happens when you are in the meditative state. And so the true nature of things takes a long time to unravel. And sometimes you look at people and they act really tough or really holy, and then they take pictures and they make ceremonies, and then they put paint in their face and then they smile. But when you look at how they are emotionally, you realize they're dead. There's nothing much happening on the inside. They just take a picture, but the smile is empty. There's no real smile. And then you reach out to these people and you say, hey, I have the feeling you're doing worse than you're saying. I have the feeling, you put paint in your face and you take pictures and it's just supposed to make you feel like you're doing good, but emotionally you feel really empty. And I can look at a picture of a person, even a person that I've never met. I can even feel who's behind images. On Instagram, sometimes people contact me, and when I write with them, I get a feeling that, behind the picture of a woman who hides himself as an NFT collector or something, there's actually a man sitting. He just has the profile of a woman because he thinks that his chance to sell something or to buy something is higher. And generally people on Instagram, they only contact you because they want to scam you. That's my experience thus far. If somebody contacted me for my art, they just acted like they wanted to buy something, and then I had a conversation with them, and then it turned out they just wanted to lure me to some other website and then scam me into sending the money. So yeah, the true nature of things is something that is always there. And it's very hard, and often it drives me insane to think about it, because then I also start to question myself. But when I can sit here and juggle, and I think about the things that happen, and then I realize, what does it mean to be true? And what is the truth then, and what is the difference between me and other people in this? So, because sometimes I feel phony myself, right? Sometimes I feel like a liar, but then I say that, right? What is truth for me? It's a feeling. So right now, for instance, I thought about maybe I should clean this thing here, wash it. Maybe I should shower. Maybe I should eat different. Maybe I should cancel this talk. I had all these kind of maybe I shoulds. And then I thought, but what do I want to do? Because the hard thing to do is sit here and talk about this, because I don't have a script, you see. Apart from having the topic and then having some hours prior to it, I think I set it up last night at some point, and I said, okay, tomorrow at 8 I'm going to do this talk. So far, recipients of my speeches were very low, like basically nothing. And that's a little bit frustrating. And that, of course, has to do with looking at statistics. And any content creator or anyone who does anything will know how this feels like, that you do something and then you look at how other people like it. And that's a problem, because it should be about what you want to give and what you have to give, rather than how other people like it. But of course, right, I mean, you can still use it as a kind of a direction. So if really nobody likes what you're doing, and you start doubting what you're doing, and you realize, oh, maybe maybe I've been really angry in my content until now. Maybe you want to change something. So if something feels like it's making you more angry over time, then maybe you should start looking at that anger. Because often what I feel like is that I'm getting angry when I'm trying to do something that I actually want to do for other people. So that's also the true nature, right? What is your true nature? And what do you want to give? What do you have to give even? But that might be a different thing from what you can give, right? Maybe you have to give nothing at the moment, because maybe your set of skills is not really developed, right? So maybe you have very little to give. I mean, there are some people that say they teach yoga, but to them yoga is just a series of stretching exercises and holding exercises. What they miss is the spiritual thing. And that is, for me, when I do yoga, it's like, holy crap. I mean, I'm doing yoga now, because what is yoga? Right? It's always the light and the dark. It's the yin and the yang, right? And it's how Ren puts it, it's a dance, right? It's the white and the dark. It's like an embrace. It's the male and the female. So these things are outside, because it's the end, right? It's not black or white, it's black and white. And that's when we speak about duality, right? It's always black and white. And that's the important part. It's always black and white, not black or white. It's not good or bad, it's good and bad. But the truth is with the end. The truth is in the middle. It's between good and bad. So is it good or bad that I sit here and talk about this? Or you could say it's good and bad. And why is that? It doesn't really matter. But I feel like it, but also I did not feel like it. So why am I sitting here? Because one feeling was stronger than the other, and I was being pulled into this direction. And because it was the hard thing to do, like the easy thing to do at the moment. And that's actually, you see, this is true and untrue at the same time. I can say the easy thing at the moment is to sit here and do this. But it's actually not true. Because sometimes the easy thing feels like just stopping with all of this content creation and simply go and work somewhere else. I don't know, in a sauna. And just do a simple job where I don't have to think a lot, where I don't have to contemplate or reflect or meditate or learn all these things, where I can just go and instruct people with climbing, right? Sometimes that seems like the easy thing from the outside. It's just like lying, right? it seems easy. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna ignore that person. Yeah, that's gonna solve it. That's gonna solve your problem. Because when you love someone and you just want to ignore them, then you're lying to yourself. It's like, this is like self-manipulation. You're just screwing yourself. Because sometimes maybe you want is always there, and sometimes you have to ask yourself, wait, am I stupid now? Or is the other person stupid? And then you have to understand the true nature of things. And the way I feel, even when I was at school, you know, there were some people, they would come too late, and then they would make up a story and they would say, yeah, I did this, the bus, you know, the dog ate my homework. And I would just say, I didn't make it. It's like, you know, I didn't beat around the bush, I just said I didn't make it. And that takes courage to just say to your teacher, I just didn't make it because I didn't feel like it. You know, I hated homework. I hated school. The best thing about school was walking there and back, which I did because I wanted to. And so I did it. I walked 45 minutes walk to school. And I had my backpack and all, and rain or not, I just walked to school. Sometimes I took the bus, but that was on very rare occasions. So what is the true nature of things? You know, sometimes we have made choices in our lives that actually set us apart. And sometimes we fail to recognize that. Sometimes we fail to see how much certain choices set us apart. So the funny thing is, you would think that if I eat cake, I actually want to have energy. You know, but that's because we have a misconception about what food actually does. And the funny thing is that if I don't eat, I can't sleep. I mean, do you know this? Sometimes you're awake at night, but you can't sleep. And then you feel really hungry. And then what you do is, you simply go and eat something, and then you go back to sleep, and then you sleep. And then people say, you shouldn't eat at night because it's bad for your digestion, it's bad for your health. But if I want to sleep, and my hunger is what keeps me awake, why don't you just go and eat? But now the question is, do I have to eat food, or is my spirit being hungry? And I'm trying to avoid feeding it with what a spirit needs and just put in food so that I don't feel my need anymore. So the true nature of things, right? People say you need food, otherwise you're gonna die. And you see all these images of people starving of hunger. Who gives you these images? Because what I feel like is, I'm starving although I'm eating all the time. Like emotionally and spiritually, I'm starving. I'm dead already inside. And I eat a lot of food. And it doesn't matter what I eat at the moment. You know, right now, what I want to do is I just want to rush. Just eat something. And then I don't know if I should give in to it. So what's the true nature of my wish to eat right now? I mean, I could sit here now, but what I really want is actually something else, right? What I want is spiritual union. What I want is feeling as one. This is a very difficult thing to understand. To wrap your head around what the truth actually is. You know, what are you supposed to do? What do other people want from you? You know, what are you doing because you feel that there are expectations resting on your shoulders? You know, I have this a lot with family members. You know, they cook food and they may not even say it, but the expectation that they want you to eat it is in the room. And this is how the mind can direct energy. If you want the energy from someone and you direct your mind towards this energy is pulling. And that's why, I have, for example, somebody in my life, and I constantly feel this pulling. Yeah. But when I contact her, it's just nothing. Like, she wants something, but she doesn't want to give anything back. But I feel it because I'm very perceptive about these kinds of things. I realize if there's somebody thinking a lot about me, or feeling into me, or longing for me, and it's a very weird feeling. And then you're trying to give them that, and as soon as you give them something, they just run away again. I don't really get that. Like, how can you be such a coward? Like, how can somebody really want something and then be such a pussy about it? I mean, I really don't get it. I mean, if you want something, you have to make that a reality, don't you get it? Like, I can try giving you what you want, but you won't appreciate it because you haven't worked for it. How you work for it is you want something and then you say that you want it. And if you want another person, then you have to find the balls and the courage and tell that person, hey, I like you a lot. But if you never do that because you're a coward, then you're a coward. You get that? Right? Some people think they're courageous because they maintain silence. But what is silence but running away? I mean, sometimes you have to speak up. So is this revolution going to be a silent one? I doubt it. Because we've been silent for a very long time in terms of truth. Because all the people that are talking are all the liars, right? We've got politicians that say they want to do certain things, so they want you to vote for them. And once they're in a position of power where we place them, or you, because I don't vote, then they just do whatever they want, whatever the industry needs to make more money. And so you can, for example, look at Amazon and you can say, oh wow, very good service, very good service. Oh yeah, I can send everything back and I get my money back. Do you have any idea how much it costs to order from Amazon? Like, just in terms of, let's say, environmental damage. And how many toxins are being released into the air because you order something and then you don't like it, so you were uncertain about having something. You just thought, oh yeah, I just want to look at it. And then you order it, and then you get it, and then you realize, oh, that wasn't it, and then you send it back. And for you, you pay no money for that. I have no idea how Amazon can actually stem this. Well, of course, I know. Well, employee wages are very low for Amazon. Like, the people who are holding this system up are being treated like slaves. Of course, you can say, well, it's their choice, they don't have to work. But the question is, do you want to fund this? I mean, just imagine, I live here in one house, and I see one car from Amazon delivering packages. I see that car doing that for one house. Now imagine how many houses there are in the world, and how many cars are driving around. Because Amazon wants to make money by helping people to be lazy and to send them things. Now, Amazon might look like on the surface, oh wow, really good customer service. But if you look underneath, what you realize is it's a pile of shit. It's a pile of shit, and the only thing they're interested in is making money. So the true nature of things is always, you can look, for instance, I don't want to pick too much on Elon Musk anymore. He seems like emotionally at the end of the line. Like, he wants to do good, but sometimes we do the worst things with good intentions, right? But the question is, you look at him and you think, oh wow, super cool guy, super smart, like really rich, like he has a lot of money. All right. Which gives him a lot of responsibility, I would say. And when I look at, he's selling electric cars. Like, is that a very conscious thing to do? When you realize how toxic electric cars are, or cars in general? Like, should you as a very, a genius, what does that mean? To me, it always encompasses the holistic approach. And sitting down, because I have a lot of visions of what I could do. I could do a lot of things with my time. I could do a lot of things. I could do basically anything if I wanted to. But because I sit a lot with what I want to do, and then I figure out, okay, is that what I want to do? And then I make sure that that's what I want to do, and then I do it. So I have to wager. I have to look at the consequences of my actions, right? So when I'm married, and I feel like I have a vision of sleeping with another woman, then that may seem like something worth doing, but it's also very dishonest, because you're married now. So what you should do is ask yourself why you have images about sleeping with another woman, and then realize that yeah, I don't know why, I just felt like this guy from the Matrix with the spoon. Just remember, it's you who is bending and not the spoon. So it's you, right? You actually don't need to sleep with another woman. What you need to do is learn to love the one you're with, because now you are already with a woman. And your heart says she's it, right? So you have to find a way to make that communication going. But that's hard work. So the true nature of things is also, how honest are you about loving someone? Sometimes we say we love someone. We don't actually love them, right? Sometimes we say we love someone, but our actions say otherwise. But the thing is, only if you stop loving them, right? The true nature of love. What I realize is I can't really love I can love anybody. But some people I want to love a bit closer, right? Some people I really want to dive into. Actually just one, right? But you just have to figure that one out, right? Who feels right for you and all that kind of stuff. So, right, you support people like Elon Musk and, I don't know, companies like Amazon, and you think, oh yeah, they're really good, because you only look at the surface of things. And maybe you only looked at the surface of another person, and that person, you looked really pretty and sexy, and they were walking around like, oh, yeah. And then you get to know them and you realize, my God, this person is really filthy. And this is probably the point where you have to understand at least some things about spirituality and the mind, because the mind can be dirty. But the only reason the mind is dirty is because whoever is attached to the mind. Yeah, I'm not really going to go into, yeah, maybe I am, you know, what is mind? It is a very complicated thing. You know, what is mind? What are people? You know, what is personality? It's like, oh, wow. But let's just stick with the mind and how the mind can be dirty. Well, the mind can be dirty because you're dirty. Emotions can be, in a way, dirty. You know, emotions can be heavy and they can be light. And you see, it's a very, like, this is a very far-reaching topic. You know, for instance, when my mind goes to things like porn and masturbation, then in the moment where it does that, it feels like, oh wow, oh yeah, breasts, ooh, yeah. And then I look at it and I realize it's so disgusting. I mean, not disgusting as it's really bad, but it's just what it shows. It's like really dirty. Yeah. So the purest beings are generally the ones that don't. Yeah. If you go around just having sex with anybody, it just makes you more dirty. It's like very hard to understand these things. Yeah, I'm still figuring some of the stuff out. But what I realized is that the less time I spend with people who are very aggressive, also passive aggressive, most people are aggressive all the time, right? And that's when I say some people, they act like really nice. You know, that's like some people I've been doing some of these ceremonies a while ago, like ayahuasca, right? And they act really nice, and it was happening in the living room, and they were really nice about it, and they taught me a lot. But in the end, what I realized was that maybe it started out as something good, but in the end it became more like an addiction, because they were doing these things every 2 weeks, regularly, like every 2 weeks. And at the same time, they were making money with it. And even if it wasn't like thousands of euros, but you're making money with healing. And so the true nature starts from, you know, I give because I want to give, and ends, I give because I want to take. And that's always a really fine balance. So sure, I'm giving a speech about the true nature of things, but what is my real intention? You know, what's the point of hiding the fact that I also am interested in earning money with this? Because I have been doing this for a while, and some people, they just try to hide that, right? It's like people, they sometimes on YouTube you get these commercials, and then they say, yeah, I'm gonna give you a course for 2,000 euros and you're gonna have it for free. You're gonna have it for free. And they act like, oh wow, you know, he's gonna give me something. But the reason he gives you that is because he wants to have something. So, yeah, sure, I do say here that I also sell books. But if you just look at what's available from me, nobody has to buy these things, right? It's not, you know, I don't hide information. It's just that my books are just different structures, and I have more time to go into a subject. Because if I would sit here and read this book, whatever book, you know, 200 pages, it would take a couple of hours. Because also when I talk, my mind is working differently. And I generally try to not talk much more than 1 hour. Because talking is also very exhausting. That's why today, the whole day I said nothing. I slept a lot. And eating this kind of pancake really helped me also to sleep. It also gives me kind of a foul breath, but it's okay. Like, I'm not even trying to hide that anymore. I stopped brushing my teeth. And probably you have to be a bit careful about this, because there are people that lose teeth. But I just pay attention, right? And I do realize that, a lot of people, they go to the dentist a lot. But the true intention of the dentist is to make money. And that's what some people don't understand is, they even have an interest in it that your teeth are going bad. And even if they're doing fine, they might just say to you, oh wow, you have really problems in here. Because that's what they're looking for. And they're not interested to tell you to eat less sugar, because that's what I've learned now for the past couple of, it's already been a month, I think. I have not brushed my teeth at all. I do floss occasionally. But apart from that, I work with bicarbonate of soda, I work with cloves. I just look at what I'm eating, and when I have the feeling my teeth are getting very sensitive, I just do things that help me with that. It's like, making sage tea and then swirling around in your mouth, or doing oil pulling with coconut oil. But I just want to go back to the way things used to be somehow, alright? This is very difficult because about this. Because now I feel like eating again. But previously I thought, I'm not gonna eat ever again. And now suddenly eating is like, wow. The thought of eating now is like, wow. But instead, maybe I could also do something else. And that's now the interesting thing. Because before I was eating a lot of sugar. But what should I trust in this? So I've realized that if I only do the things that I think are good, so maybe like in that decision with, I'm just gonna say the love of my life who just wants to have nothing to do with me. I think she thinks that the good decision at the moment is to stay away from me. And I think that's just a manifestation of fear. And talking to other people, which is also a symptom of fear, of course. If you go to people and you ask their opinion a lot, what does that mean? You're afraid to make your own choices. And I get that. But the thing is, if I would go around now with all these problems that are so complicated to me at times, to make a choice sometimes it takes me several days to get to a conclusion what I'm supposed to do. And how I do that, I just sit with the problem that I have, and I sit with it. I watch a movie and I reflect my problem, or I project it onto the movie. So I have a problem in my mind sometimes, like, and I'm just having a conversation then, and then I suddenly feel like, now I want to watch Altered Carbon. It's a very bloody series, but it still taught me a lot. And I'm still gonna finish it. But then who says that this is a very good decision, right? Because from a, this ideal, you just sit around like this, if you can't do the lotus seat, you're already, why even bother, right? If you can't sit like this, why would you even try to meditate? Yeah, now you see, the lotus seat is like putting this on here and then this on here. I can't do it. So when I meditate, I generally just try to sit like this. But now if I would sit like this, and I would try to meditate and feel good, and I would sit like this, then what would that mean? I would try to do something that's not working. because I didn't prepare myself to do it. So the true nature of things is maybe, yeah, sure, maybe meditation is a useful tool to quiet the mind. But in order to meditate, you have to do a lot of things previously. And what I've realized is that when I would smoke cannabis, that I could meditate very deeply and very easily get into the meditative state. And I also know a lot of people that have the same, that would tell me, yeah, I took MDMA and I meditated. And I did all these like, healing things. But when they didn't take anything, they couldn't get there. And so what I realized is that in order to truly meditate and also love it, there's a lot of things that you have to do beforehand. A lot of emotional cleansing, a lot of physical cleansing, habitual cleansing, habits that piggyback emotions. And emotions are basically potential trauma, because what's a trauma? It's an emotion that you have from, I don't know, childhood, and that you feel is bad, like a bad emotion. It's like a bad egg, so to speak. So you have to look at this thing. There's a practice that I heard Ramdas talk about, where you go to the morgue, the place where they have dead people, and then you sit with a decaying corpse. I mean, you can even go to a carcass of an animal and then you sit with that. I mean, have you ever smelled death? It's horrible, man. We were talking about, he was talking about India, of course. I was in South Africa, and somebody told me there was a dead wildebeest that had died from a fight or something. And I was looking for that, and it also happens quite fast, but it doesn't really matter. But there was probably at least a 200-meter radius of where the stench was so present that you couldn't smell anything else. And it took me, I would say, half an hour before I spotted the animal in the stench. So this is how much energy also the body can store, right? I made an image, and it's called faule Haut, and it means foul is like rancid skin, basically. Yeah, people, they put on makeup, they do all kinds of things, yeah? They do this so that they look a bit better. But underneath, they're hiding all these really sick thoughts. And I was always honest about it. I mean, sometimes I had really violent thoughts. But if you go around telling this to people, they might put you into an asylum. But the thing is, I never acted on these thoughts. Yeah, sure, I sometimes have thoughts of even especially after watching porn or masturbating, I actually feel ashamed. I also started to realize that when I overeat, I feel ashamed. And I still want to overeat now. I eat now, because every time I eat, I get tired. And that's an escape, of course. So you may think you eat because you're hungry, or you may think you eat because you need energy. But the truth is probably that you eat because you're trying to get away from the feeling that you're having. So what you can do is you can eat, but then you try to understand what you're feeling, right? What is your feeling trying to tell you? Now I want to eat cheese, but I said I don't want to eat cheese. I also said I don't want to eat sugar, but now dairy is making you tired. A lot of people eat cheese. It makes you tired. Food in general makes you tired. And I get it. Because this kind of existence is very tiring. Why? Because the air is toxic, people are toxic, and we are sitting in the middle of it. And I also feel like I'm too far away from nature, like emotionally. Like we as humanity, we are too far away from nature. Like, I could probably somehow survive, but what's the point? What's the point right now? I could leave at any time. Technically, I could leave at any time and I could go into nature and then I could live there. And live off the land. But the truth is, they'd probably arrest me for being a vagabond and not paying tax or something, right? You're stealing! What are you doing here walking around? You know, this kind of stuff. Because they think this area belongs to them. But the true nature of things is it belongs to nobody. You know, this is just a bunch of people. Yeah, I'm alternating how I sit. Sometimes I do this. Because this actually trains my arms and my shoulders. And I can stretch. And it also takes a bit of weight off my back. Because I feel like lying down a lot. So I have to do things to build up strength, right? But I'm doing things to build up strength gradually. Because what I realized is that I'm working with a lot of heavy emotions. Like, I've talked to you about what happened with my family previously. You know, I helped them. You know, it's a difficult thing to say that, but I did, to release some tension. Because I know how to do that. In that sense, you could say I'm an energy worker. But what I actually rather would like to say is that I can read energy and I can feel it. So if somebody speaks to me, I don't hear the words that they're saying. I'm hearing the message that underneath it. So if somebody treats me with silence, then I could see that as anger, but what I see is fear. Because if somebody doesn't dare to talk to me, then they probably think there's something scary about me. I might hurt them or something. Right, is that my problem? I don't know. Because I'm not the one being afraid, right? Because if you really would get to know me, you would realize, I mean, what does he really do? Like, what does he really do? And that was also what I said, right? Sometimes with my family, they get really, like, irritated with me. Because I just do what I want. I mean, I live here in this house with other people that you could say is a mother, is a father, is a brother, is a sister-in-law, and sometimes also a sister. And I walk around, and often I stay silent. I say nothing. And people get angry at that for me. So everybody walks around and they act like, oh, ha, 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 ha. Yeah. When they're together, they're just, oh, ha, 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 ha. But when nobody's watching, they're like, ugh. Yeah. And when nobody's watching, they're just swearing a lot. They just say, you know, fucking shit. So the true nature of things is people are generally really unhappy and imbalanced. And so the true nature of things is what is basically always there. But you can wear a mask. For how long can you wear that? I think you can wear it as long as you have enough energy to maintain it. But what I also think is you can wear it for some time, but at a certain point, truth will begin to leak out, and often it happens to the emissionaries of truth. People who have been awakened to a higher truth and who've been called forth into Christ consciousness and who are being shown the truth in certain areas, and then they have to learn to work with that. Right? If your kundalini starts flowing and your consciousness begins to rise and you start to look more with your third eye, and you're becoming more like the witness, which is seeing yourself in a situation like you're actually watching it from the outside, but you're still in the middle of it doing things, but at the same time you're looking at it from the outside. And that's the witness. And what does that mean? I mean, we all know there's like chakras in the body. You know, the one at the bottom of your spine is the root chakra, and that's where all the fear is. And then here you have the heart chakra, that's green, and the root chakra is red. And the throat chakra is about truth, and that one's blue. And then you've got the sixth, this is the third eye. And this is connected to how the chakras, the energy is flowing in your body, is also connected to emotional trauma, but also to physical factors. So physical factors, for example, for your third eye, is that the pineal gland is a gland in your body that does something with the third eye, right? So if that thing is clogged with, is it carbon? Like chalk stuff? Then you have a blurry third eye vision for everything spiritual. And you can open that. For example, tamarind cleanses it. It decalcifies the pineal gland and gradually opens your third eye more. But that isn't the only thing, because you also have to realize that when you start cleansing and you start seeing more truth, then you also have to learn to deal with that. So when the energy starts flowing, sometimes you feel like you're going insane. And I feel like sometimes when it's too much, then I just eat a large batch of pancakes and then I sleep. So sometimes I force myself into sleeping because I feel like if this keeps going on, I cannot rest anymore. I cannot deal with all these choices sometimes. And so I just want to sleep, because if I can't sleep, sometimes the only way I can relax is when I sleep. And if I don't manage, because how else could I get to sleep? Well, I could work. I'm working a lot already. What else could I do? I could stretch, I could massage, so that I'm less tired and then the energy flows more. But sometimes I feel like, because what is sleep doing? Well, it's like a bit of a state of samadhi, but not the kind of samadhi that you hold like this, but more like one you can retreat to. And right, there's like spiritual nutrition, and then there's like this physical nutrition, and eating grounds you. And sometimes I really need to be grounded, because sometimes things happen in your life that just like throw you out of balance, and then you're hanging on and you're like, fuck, the storm is raging, it's like emotions like yeah. And when I'm in such a state, I sometimes just overeat. And why is this all relevant? Sometimes I think, oh yeah, I'm done now, I'm healed, right? Now I'm a shaman. Now I'm ready, now I'm done. Yeah. that usually lasts for about, in terms of feeling, 5 seconds. It's like, wow, this, now I feel it. But then I take one step, and it's over. Sometimes I don't want to sleep exactly for that reason, because I want to hold on to knowing what I'm supposed to do. Because every time I sleep and I wake up, it's like, and what now? Yeah. But the truth is, and that's again the true nature of things, as much as I'm sometimes trying to hold on to knowing things or to be a certain way, at some point I just feel like I have to sleep to let go of knowing. Because when you can let go of knowing, then you can start feeling. That's actually interesting. I've never seen it like that. Right? So sometimes I know, right? I know who my wife is. I know what I'm supposed to do. But I also find that really boring. I find it really boring to walk around and just know everything all the time. Sometimes I just want to know nothing. And I just want to tap around in the dark and just find something and say, oh wow, that's what that was. Because if, I can sit around and meditate probably, but that's also a lie because I can't. I actually want to, but I also don't want to, because I rather feel miserable. Plus it takes a lot of time to just sit and meditate. And that's why at the moment I'm doing a lot of like this. I sit like this and I juggle. Because if I sit like this, I just get bored so easily. Just think, this is so boring to just sit here. Because time really stretches out when you're waiting for something. So instead of waiting, I'd rather do this, right? I mean, I've been waiting for something to happen ever since I made that choice. I'm going to write the book of fear. I was waiting for something to happen all the time and nothing ever happens. Like nothing, I'm telling you. Nothing ever happens. Occasionally there's a new follower on my channel. Yeah, and then one video is like boosting up. But technically, nothing's really happening. Sometimes I thought maybe somebody's going to show up here. Yeah, like the woman I love, and she's going to say, I love you. Let's be together for the rest of our lives. But it never happens, right? It never happens. So at one point you just give up hoping for anything to happen. And that's probably the point, right? You just stop expecting things. But that's also a little bit boring. But there's this voice that says, give up hope, because hope is such bullshit. What am I supposed to hope for? If I want something, I can work towards it. But if I sit around hoping, then I'm sitting around hoping. And when I'm busy hoping, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. Because sitting around hoping is like, what does that help? I can hope that somebody's gonna come here and proclaim their love at the top of their lungs and then, oh yeah, everything's perfect. But my experience says these things basically never happen. And that's when you have to look at the true nature of things. Because I'm the one that wrote a book about fear. You get that? I'm the one who knows how to deal with fear. So why do I want other people to know how to do that? I mean, you have to want to do that yourself. And what I've realized is some people, they're simply scared. And they can't help it. It's like the situation that happened with my family. All I had to do was go to my brother when he said he was sick and sit down on his couch and start talking about spirituality, and he completely flipped and started screaming like mad. And now all I could do in that moment was just to sit there and let him scream. And then take me and drag me around his apartment to get me out of there. But if somebody reacts in such a violent way to me just sitting down, then the true nature of things is not I'm doing really good and I'm happy. Then the true nature of things is I'm really angry and I hate myself. If the only thing I have to do is sit down and start talking about spirituality, which would be a normal thing to talk about. You know, we say, oh yeah, you're my brother, you're my son, you're my friend. But if I sit down and I want to talk about something, and you start screaming because you don't want to hear it, because I didn't want to say something like, you know, I don't do casual. I go deep into these topics. And if I see that some people are struggling, you know, I can sometimes tell them something. Maybe you should do this or do that. Or start concerning yourself with spirituality a little because your materialistic way of life, you know, there's nothing to it anymore. You have to change this now or suffer the consequences. And you will suffer the consequences anyway. It's hard to get rid of this. To me, I'm so addicted to eating because my mind is always pointed towards the next meal. I wake up and the first thing I think about, what can I eat or what can I drink? It's not like, oh wow, now I'm gonna stretch. No, my first thought is food or drink. And it's not water, it's coffee. Yeah, or it's some kind of juice, right? Something like, wow. Yeah, instead I could also start my day with breathing exercises. You know, I could start my day with yoga. I could start my day with, I don't know. Trying to learn how to do a handstand. You know, I could do a lot of things. I could start my day with sitting here and doing crochet for 10 minutes. Even if it's hard, because doing crochet, especially when you're sitting like this, you can do like this, but I want to sit straight. So that's effort. Yeah, sure, it seems much more comfortable to just sit on your couch and watch TV, but I want to have a straight spine. Because why am I doing these things? Why do I sit here and I juggle? Because it trains my body to sit upright. So it trains the muscles in my back to hold the weight. And I'm not putting a pillow under my ass now, because that weakens me also. I want to be able to sit in the meditative posture for hours on end. And just as I can stand for hours on end because I stand a lot, I now want to sit a lot like this, straight, to look straight. And at the moment, juggling helps me to accomplish this. Doing crochet, I can even watch a movie sitting like this. Because I don't have to go from one day to, yeah? Because then, you know, if today I'm like, yeah, watching porn, like, being the worst person ever, I'm not gonna tomorrow be like, pure bliss. At least I'm not, you know, maybe you're different. You know, I don't know, right? I just know that for me, it works with transitions. And I realized if I really want to feel this, sit here in meditation and be like, it takes a lot of time. And you realize how I'm opening up to myself again now. Because sometimes I try to be super strong and super tough, because I think I should be somewhere else already, because to be honest, I'm quite sick of being weak. I'm sick of always trying to not masturbate and then I masturbate again. You know, I'm sick of wanting to stop eating and then I start eating again. It's very hard to just stay in the middle and just say, Sometimes just things happen and other people come and they shout at you and you have to deal with that. So it's like important to have a set of practices that always bring you back to truth. This is how I feel about it. So when your partner shouts at you or just says nothing, you have to go back to how you really feel about them. Not what they throw at you or how they treat you or how they think they treat you. But you have to go back to how you really feel about them. And when you really feel like whatever this person is saying, you can't help it but just simply love them, well then all you can do is just keep on loving. And that's a bitch. Because to love someone who doesn't want to be loved, or who wants to be loved but is afraid of being loved because what they've been shown as love so far was like very painful. And it takes a lot of patience, I'm telling you, to love someone who's really afraid of love. Like, I'm learning a lot of things here. And a part of me just hates that because I feel like it's like loving yourself. It's very hard. It's very hard. It's very hard. Yeah. And so sometimes I'm just not that peaceful. You know, I'm not as peaceful as I would like to be. And sometimes, you know, I also have all these restrictions in my mind. Like right now, I say, I don't want to eat cheese. I don't want to eat this. I don't want to eat that. You know, okay, one thing I really don't want to eat is meat. But at the same time, you see, that's what I don't get is sometimes I really feel like I would like to eat sausage. But the thing is, if I know what sausage is, then how can I eat that? Like, if I really know what sausage is, that there's like probably hundreds of animals being treated like they're being treated, and then being cut to pieces, and then stuffed into a column. You know, on the surface, sausage just looks like sausage. But the true nature of sausage is there's like hundreds of animals for one sausage probably, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. It's like millions of animals each year are being kept in terrible conditions. And then they're being killed, like strategically killed, with no heart or empathy. It's just like cold-blooded murder, one after another. And then they're being like skinned and all of that stuff. And then they're being minced down into a paste and stuffed into their own colons. Like, that's the true nature of sausage and meat and dairy. Wow. And now you have to face it that you've been eating that shit your whole life. And now one way of dealing with that shame is to keep eating it. Because you rather pretend than to face the consequences of your shame. And that's what keeps me running back to porn. Because rather than accepting how ashamed I feel about having watched that in the first place, I just want to go back to watching it. Because then I can feel good once more about it, right? Then I don't have to face the shame. I think that's the problem that most people have, including me, when you try to stop with porn and you feel like, it's like torture, literally. That's how I feel like when I try to stop watching porn. and I try to stop with masturbation, it's just like building up, the pressures like building up, and then I get that. This is how I feel then. Damn it, what am I supposed to do? That's just what I got from watching this show called Altered Carbon. Yeah, I don't have to recommend it to anyone. But this is exactly the kind of torture that happens. You know, whatever truth you may find in Harry Potter, or what Joanne K. Rowling wrote there. I don't know who said it. Maybe Harry asked something like, you know, could Voldemort still be healed? I think Hermione says it when she has the book. I don't know which one. Most of Potential spells. It's incredible how I know these things. But they're in here, right? You just have to access them and trust that they're there. Most Potential spells or something. And then she reads about Horcruxes. Now I feel reading that again, see. But I don't have to read it again. It's still in here, right? I can go through the whole book. I cannot cite it word by word, probably. But probably I could, if I would trust myself to do it. So there is not a single person who has a photographic memory. Once you have something in you, you can access it. It's just like people that have a photographic memory, they just naturally, apparently trusted it. So, question is, yeah. Anyway, at some point in the book, the question arises, what is, you know, could Voldemort still stitch himself back together? Like his pieces of the soul. And then it's being said that he would have to feel remorse for every sin he committed, or every murder, every bad deed. And that would probably kill him. Like that alone would probably kill him, or torture him. At least it would throw him into an immense amount of suffering. Now I'm going to start enjoying this. This is interesting. Because I've been always trying to get away from this suffering. But now I realize that just what the feeling I got from watching Altered Carbon, which is a lot also about in the mind, how you can torture somebody in the mind. And then I connected that to, wow, that happens every time I start to stop watching porn. I have to face the remorse of having watched it in the first place. The shame, I have to face that, and that's self-torture, literally. And now it's just putting a mad grin on my face. It's like, alright, I can do this. If an actor can do it in a movie, I can face the shame and have it really torture me, because I think that's actually what I want. I actually want this. Why? Because I want to get out of it, but I want to be punished. You get that? And for years I've been watching porn, and I've been masturbating, and I've been trying to avoid punishment for it. And maybe now is the time to just really face it. Like, to really feel like when I really truly let go of my desire to watch porn, that also means that I let go of what sparked the desire in the first place. Because the true nature of my porn addiction is not just shame, it's also, it's shame. And the fear of having done bad, right? So, and wanting to be actually in union, and then you realize when watching porn actually gets me away from that. So that brings me back to eating cheese. Why do I feel like eating cheese now? And the voice says, give into it, eat cheese, eat cheese. Well, why? It says you need that. Yeah, and all the time there's this stench coming out of my stomach. It's like, sometimes I do this a lot. I just want to smell how my breath smells. And I realize it's very bad. I just ate a lot today, so why would I eat cheese now? You need that, it says. Yeah, maybe I do. But now I haven't eaten cheese for a while, but I have eaten butter in these pancakes, which are really made like a cake, only I baked it in a pan. Question is therefore, maybe I should eat cheese with avo. And maybe I should do that. Because that's also something I realize. Sometimes you try to stop everything at once. And maybe if I eat cheese, you see how stupid this is. Maybe if I eat cheese now, I can better let go of this. Why? I think the reason I want to eat cheese is because I'm trying to get away from not eating. Because that's what I'm trying to do now again. I'm trying to not eat. But I also said in one of my videos, I'm gonna not eat from the 28th until the 5th. But it just seems like an awfully long time in the future. Do I really want to continue eating until then? Or wouldn't it be better to just stop now and simply get it over with? Because there's always going to be food. Like, there's always going to be food. You see, that's the thing, right? My intuition is guiding me. And earlier came up the smell of some type of sausage. It's like liver sausage. But I know I don't want to eat that. Because I don't want to suffer the consequences. But cheese feels alright. So sometimes I have these feelings or emotions and something comes. Generally, I choose the thing that feels the nicest. Like, why eat cheese? Why eat anything at all now? You see, I don't really know. But the truth is, if I really want to eat cheese, I'm just going to do it. Because I also know that if I'm trying to stop doing everything, then I'm just stuck at stopping everything at once. And I'm still alive, right? I mean, something that I'm doing seems to be working. And maybe I'm just supposed to slow down a little. Maybe I'm not supposed to be like super enlightened right now. Maybe I'm also supposed to live a little and eat a bit of cheese once in a while. Well, maybe that's what it's about, right? Maybe it's like finding the balance between spiritual enlightenment and still living. You know, it's what they say about the Buddha. You know, there is no the Buddha. Buddha is Christ consciousness. Yeah? Buddha is just seeing truth and learning to live with it. And holding truth is a scary place. And so the Buddha, what they say, maybe, how was he called? Gautama, Siddhartha, Bin Laden, I don't know. Yeah, probably Bin Laden was probably awakened. And the US just wanted to kill him for that. Because this is what's happening all over the world, don't you see that? The truth is being, they are trying to weed it out. They're trying to weed out the truth. They're really trying to weed the truth. And they want to spark fear into the hearts of the people. Because fear is what keeps this shit show going. Fear is what finances science. Fear is what finances Amazon. Fear is financing everything around here. So even the people that want to spark fear into the hearts of their slaves, which anybody is that serves this society, is basically, they're also afraid, right? Because greed is a symptom of fear, and that's also something that I've been seeing in that series Altered Carbon, right? It's about this guy who's actually afraid to die, and he could, through science, maintain his life for several decades by backing up his consciousness onto some kind of storage device and then just transferring that into new bodies. And when he would die, he would have a backup of his consciousness. But that just means he's just a copy of himself. He's actually not him anymore, right? Because how can you grow as a person if you always get thrown back to where you started? So you have to work with your trauma, is what it says. If he would want to transcend his fear of death, he would have to accept that he's going to die. But he can't do that, so he's in denial. And what makes him feel powerful and superior is going to people who don't have the money to transfer their consciousness onto a disc, or that they don't want it maybe. And he goes to the really sick people and he spends time with them because it makes him feel better. So you may say on the surface he looks like, yeah, a really balanced person who's really nice, and he goes to the people, yeah, and he spends time with the poor. But if you look at the true nature of things, what you realize is that he's afraid of fear and he likes to feel superior. So if you want to feel superior by spending time with people that you think are worse off than you are, well, it just, yeah. So you're actually piggybacking other people. You know, it's like people who want to be really saintly, and then they go and they feed poor people on the streets, and the poor people probably think like, you know, whatever you want, like knock yourself out. I mean, give me a sandwich if you want, but I don't really give a crap. You know, this, you want a sandwich, you'll have a sandwich. I don't know. And then the person who goes around feeding people on the streets thinks I'm helping people, and that makes him feel better. But he's willing to accept that there have to be people that need his help to make himself feel better. Of course, he doesn't see it that way. He thinks he's helping people. He doesn't see that they are helping him. Because maybe what he wants, wouldn't it be better to go around and just teach people how to help themselves? So if you go around and you give people, right, it's like, is it like a proverb or something? You know, you can give a man a fish that's starving, or you can teach him how to fish, and then he can catch his own fish in the future. So going around and feeding people that live on the streets is very stupid to me, because that just keeps them on the streets and it keeps them in a state of dependency. You know, a much better, so that's the true nature of things, right? You see people that go around like, oh yeah, I feed you pizza. Well, why don't you teach me how to make pizza, and then I can open a pizza bakery or something, right? You could help me do that. That's really helping someone. to really help them, yeah, to bring them to the place where they can do it themselves, that's really helping someone. And that means you're taking a lot of responsibility also. And most people don't want to do that. They just want to go there, see how bad people are, and then feed them food. And then they want to go back to their apartment, while these people just go back to living on the streets. So actually nothing really changed. You know, it's just maintaining the state of affairs. You know, there's really poor people, and then there's me, and then there's really rich people or something. But the thing is, you know, if you really want to help someone, first you have to help yourself. And when you feel like you don't really need a lot from anyone anymore, as you've learned how to help yourself, now you can go and see how other people could help themselves. And then you realize a lot of it is diet and pretentiousness. Like, that's basically it. You know, it's like being dishonest to yourself and the way you eat. Right? If you're dishonest about the way you feel, then you're going to do a lot of stupid things to pretend that you actually feel better than you truly do. Sure. So I'll go and eat some cheese, right? It's like, oh yeah, you know, I feel so much better now. I just ate cheese. Oh, it was really cheese that I needed. You know, it wasn't spiritual union and fasting or going into nature. No, it was cheese. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for cheese all this time, right? And then you eat the cheese. Then you wake up and then, you know, what's it now? What's it now? What's it now? It's, oh no. Yesterday I had cheese, you know, that worked. Today it's gonna be something else. You know, that's how I've been living my entire life. Every time I feel like I need something, I give myself something. And I give myself the same thing until I'm bored with it, and then I give something else. And I can do that the whole time, but in the end, what I have to acknowledge is it's not food that I want. It's spiritual union. It's, you know, wanting to be also with my wife. But I also realize the way I'm now, maybe, I don't know if it really would work. Well, it would if we would work together, right? If we would really say this is what we want, right? Even though it's hard, but I want it and I stand up for it. Because denying myself this is just like self-torture. Yeah. And then maybe I do eat cheese, right? Because I also, now I can say maybe I've earned it, right? Plus, I don't know. I just feel like if I feel like fasting, then I fast. If I don't manage because there's also other things I feel like doing, well, then I stop. You know, I like to slow down a little. I don't want to be too fast, right? Because if I'm enlightened, I'm gone. I mean, what does that mean? You know, I've been in these places already. And I realized if you only look for spiritual enlightenment, you're gonna leave. Then that's it. You only have a limited time on here, on this plane, with this body, with this set of variables. You only have a limited time in this kind of constellation. And the goal is to figure out what works for you specifically. I like the word, but that's the point, right? To figure out what works for you, like for you. Right now, with these circumstances, it's not about what would have worked for you if you were, I don't know who. No, what works for you now, with this set of cards on your hand. How can you manage? How can you manage with being brought up in a poor family to be happy, right? So maybe you have to accept that you won't do what I do. Maybe you won't even juggle because you have no arms. It's not really funny, but you know, some people, they have no arms and they may think, I can never juggle. Well, you could try juggling with your feet. It's probably possible, I don't know. But that's how some people live their life, right? Some people, they just don't have beard growth. And then they feel like that's something that they should have. And that if they only would have that, they would feel much better. Yeah, and then they start and have hair implanted from their butt into their face so that they have beard growth. But then you have to live with the shame of having butt hair in your face. Very stupid, isn't it? So the true nature of things is basically what you have available. So instead of living in that fantasy, oh, you know, my family is really happy, you have to face that they're not. And when you see that, then you can actually start dealing with it. Okay, is there something that I can actually do? Well, you first help yourself. When you've done that, you just see what your feeling is telling you. Sometimes your feeling says, do this. And then you look at, okay, what is the feeling rooted in? Is that an expression of fear, or is it actually, okay, that's actually going to help? Well, for that you need to quiet your mind. That brings me back to learning how to meditate, learning how to sit still, learning how to let your mind wander. I do this at the moment through juggling, sitting straight, doing this occasionally. Because I'm learning new skills, right? And I'm doing it bit by bit. And I feel like I'm getting stronger. And that's good, isn't it? And that's all there is to it. And this is where I end this episode. And this is crochet juggling ball number 5. There's one thing that I don't really like. It's that these balls lose rice. Because I filled it with rice. And when I juggle with them, they lose it. So the question arises, is that bad? And what do I do when there's no rice in these balls anymore? Because I can't just open it up. So the question is also, maybe you could put something inside that keeps the rice from falling out. Put like a t-shirt, cut it up, put it inside, then put the rice in. Yeah? So there's always a solution for everything. And this was my solution for solving the problem of whether to hold this self-centered monologuous conversation. Yeah. And now I'm just so fixed on eating cheese that I'm probably just going to do that. And because I know I will feel alone doing it, I'll probably watch something with it. I could even sit in silence and just eat with the camera, right? So if you're still up for a midnight snack, I'll just keep holding my ground for a while longer. And you know, it's really weird because I really don't know if somebody's on the other side. I don't even know if this thing is still streaming. But you know, it's like giving up control. I just don't want to be alone right now. And having the camera running at least gives me the feeling of there's somebody else here also. So, I'm a fan of spontaneous eating. I don't have to eat at specific times. I eat when I feel like it. If I think about it, I probably shouldn't be eating right now. But at the same time, I only ate cake, so why should I not eat something proper right now? So the true nature of things is just do what you want. So just to clarify, I'm just going to keep this running. I'm probably going to talk a bit less. And I'm just going to get some food now. So if you give me about 10 minutes, I'll probably have a decent meal ready. If you want to join in, I'll probably make some tea, sage. I want to drink sage tea now. And I'll grab an avo. But you can eat basically whatever you want, it doesn't matter. So yeah, thank you for joining